Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining Canuc Resources annual update on the company. My name is Philip. I work with NAI Interactive, and today we'll have Chris Burlett, our CEO of the company, provide a year-end update presentation, followed by a Q&A session. There will be an opportunity for my audience to ask questions. You may send your questions over to an email address that we'll provide later on during the presentation, and we will ask these questions to Mr. Burlett during this event. So, Chris, are you ready to begin your presentation?
Yeah, good. Thank you very much, Phil. Okay, so let me just put up the deck here. Okay, so this is the PowerPoint prepared specifically for this presentation. Canuc Resources and our primary driver of value in 2022, as of December 2021, is IOCG Discovery Potential in Sonora State, Mexico. If you have any questions, please email that email address that we have on the slide there, ksemnani@canucresources.ca, and we'll have your questions answered for you. We'll line them up and we'll answer the questions at the end of the presentation. This is our commitment to excellence statement. We take it seriously. We support team members, accept challenges, solve problems, find solutions, respect communities, all people in the natural environment, and these principles govern our conduct and the management of our business. We have this statement in our office, in our corporate material, and we adhere to this specific conduct statement carefully. So this is the really the summary of value potential for Canuc 2022. IOCG Discovery Potential in Sonora State, Mexico, deposit type IOCG. And we also have natural gas cash flow. We have 8 producing natural gas wells from long life wells in West Texas, USA, provides steady cash flow to the company, monthly checks. And we have the cash flow basically to minimize unnecessary shareholder dilution, cover corporate costs. But the principal driver of value is the IOCG Discovery Potential in Sonora State, Mexico. So the San Javier Project, which is where we're doing our exploration in Mexico, we began that project working there in 2009. A silver deposit had been brought by a Mexican mining engineer. His father had staked it in 1953. When we first reviewed it, there were geologists' report that we read that were from the early 2000s, where they had recommended acquisition to both a Hecla and Endeavor separately, and acquisition of the claim, and then acquisition of further claims along trend. Both those companies did not take up that proposition because it would have taken a lot of time, and they had basically bigger fish to fry, other things to work on. However, that presented an opportunity for us as a small, at that time, private company. So we acquired the claim in 2009, and then we acquired claims along trend. Today we're at 24 claims along a 3-kilometer trend and covering all the down dip. In 2019, we acquired a substantial claim about 2.5 kilometers along trend, which is called El Tule. And El Tule has provided some very interesting geology in 2020. First thing that happened in 2020, when the game really, our interpretation of San Javier changed. First thing that happened, we found a report written by Dr. Murray W. Hitzman, who was the head of the Department of Economic Geology at the Colorado School of Mines at the time. He had been visiting a property just south of our claims, in fact, contiguous south, and identified IOCG potential in the area. Specifically, his report references looking for magnetite. And all the hallmarks of IOCG, this area, according to his report, which is now on our website. But the absence of magnetite was a concern for him. He said, when you find magnetite, you'll find the lower levels of an IOCG, if you can find magnetite here. So that report we found in Q3 2020, and within a month, we had found also extensive magnetite on the El Tule claim, which we had just begun exploring. So that magnetite came with silver, very high silver numbers, all reported. But the magnetite that we found on El Tule, massive magnetite over an extensive area, carried very high to bonanza grades of silver in these veins that manifest through breccias and other geological structures. Also in 2020, in Q3, the claims to the south contiguous, and in Q4, just the beginning of October, I think it was, of Q4 of 2020, the claims contiguous to the east were taken by two separate public companies, Barksdale Resources in the case of the claims to the south, and Cisco Developments in the case of the claims to the east. So the whole area really went live. And San Javier now is effectively an evolving mining camp with drilling going on. All three companies are now drilling exploration, and there's significant resources of gold and copper in both the south and to the east. So 2021, after discovering the magnetite in 2020, we conducted a magnetic survey and we identified and reported on 3 large magnetic anomalies in 2021, beginning of 2021. We also, in the first month of the year, added 5 important claims to our land position, and then we began drilling. We reported silver, gold, and copper above the anomalies, magnetic anomalies in March, and then we encountered massive magnetite in drilling in August. And then in October, we reported on hole 4, the one we're in now, that then we reported copper, significant intervals of copper, presence of copper, mineralization, top to bottom, and a significant evidence of contact metamorphism. Minerals that suggest a high pressure and high temperature environment we believe was created by an intrusive, which we think we're getting very close to in drilling hole number 4. In November, we added 2 further claims. So there's been some issues in 2021. Slow drilling of the 292 days since February 11th. We have only been drilling 102 days, so not a very good success rate. There's several reasons for that. We're not going to change the drillers, but also the assay lab is slow. The longest turnaround time for some of the assays, 126 days as a result of COVID. So a lot of delays and slow progress, but also some very significant confirmations at San Javier in 2021. And here they are. Silver halide. So the first thing was that we reported in August that these very high silver numbers that we saw in magnetite were in the form of, the silver was in the form of silver halides. That's silver chloride, bromide, fluorine, fluoride, iodide, and that's the dominant form of silver that we see in the magnetite at San Javier. That is not common for Cordillera deposits, Western U.S. and Mexico, but is consistent with IOCG type geology. So that was a very significant geological information. New copper zone. No gold and copper zone. It's a long one, 3 kilometers. We discussed that in a press release in August, and then further in December. It's 3 kilometers long through the property. Very good numbers on surface for gold and copper. It's so extensive. We've taken we've worked on the first kilometer alone and found multiple trenches with high gold and copper, relatively high for surface, and the geological structure goes for about 3 kilometers. Pewtoronite, another significant mineral find, was in hole number 4. We reported that on the 14th of December. The Pewtoron Plateau is in Russia. It's not a common copper mineral, but can be consistent with IOCG type geology. So again, a significant mineral indicator. Less so perhaps in the silver halides, which really are a very interesting geological feature and a primary piece of evidence in supporting the thesis for IOCG geology here. And then we found and confirmed the high to bonanza grades of silver in magnetite in the veins that we had and on veins extend on the new ground that we acquired. So hole number 4, where we are now, we evidence contact metamorphism at the bottom, and we believe that we're very close to the intrusive. We see this pewtoronite, and our objective is to mobilize a much bigger drill and to drill into what we believe is an intrusive copper-bearing, potentially copper-bearing intrusive at depth, and that would be the significant geological feature that we're after here in hole number 4, and confirmation of our IOCG thesis for San Javier. Metasomatism is evidence across the property, and it's an alkaline environment versus calc-alkaline for again suggestive of IOCG mineralization. So this slide I include for one reason. Andrew Mackey, CEO of BHP, references, this is from a speech that he gave in 2016. He talks about the silver discovery at Broken Hill in 1885, the monster discovery, Broken Hill deposit that ultimately led to BHP. Today, $146 billion market cap. But he talks about the boomerang-shaped lode of silver chloride we found in Broken Hill in the 1880s was more valuable than all the wealth created by the gold rush. And despite the fact that silver prices were falling at the time, we prospered, as did our shareholders and our employees and the nation as a whole. It was a monster discovery. And the significant feature here, silver chloride, is that it was a halide form of silver. The different deposit type, but geologically also quite significant. So this is a very simple schematic of what we're looking at, and you can see the copper gold elements that you get in the porphyry type environment, and then you can see the magnetite that we discovered on the claims that we have through the El Tule, with the massive magnetite being consistent with IOCG copper, gold, and silver. So you can see, we see evidence of breccia on the property. We see epithermal veins. We see we see the transition zone. We see porphyry, copper porphyry type mineralization, and then we see this significant magnetite that we've evidenced with silver. And so we believe we're drilling into, seeking this type of lower level of IOCG type deposit at San Javier. This is it. These are some of the drill roads. The silver veining goes all the way up north to south, south to north, as we go from bottom here up to the top. That's south to north. We're looking north. You can see some of the roads here that we're putting in to enhance the drilling. And we're at 1,000 meters of depth here, roughly here, and seeking to confirm copper-bearing intrusive in hole number 4. I include this slide again just to remind what really IOCG. This is a Wikipedia definition of IOCG deposits. Iron oxide copper gold is important, highly valuable concentrations of copper, gold, and uranium ores. Not in our case uranium, silver, likely more than, certainly evidence of silver more than, and there's no evidence of uranium here. So within iron oxide dominant gangue assemblages, which are a common origin. The tremendous size, relatively simple metallurgy, and relatively high grade of IOCG deposits can produce extremely profitable mines. That's the key. These they contain fantastic metal inventory, and we're seeking to prove that there is this deposit type, copper, gold, and in our case, likely heavy with silver, in San Javier. That's the Orogenesis model for San Javier. So 2022, we want to finish hole 4. And confirm and hit an intrusive. If we're successful in that, that'll be a fantastic outcome. We have a much bigger drill. Mobilize should start the first few weeks of January, and we expect results by early March at the latest, for early to mid-March by the latest, for the confirmation and the progress for that hole. We want to drill the silver magnetic anomalies to the north, where there are magnetic anomalies near to where the substantial silver grades came in veins that come to surface in the magnetite. And we want to do much more work on the silver gold zone. It's a big, long 3-kilometer zone. So we'll be testing that and then ultimately drill testing, doing more trenching to begin with. And then we want to drill some of the magnetic anomalies where there's old workings on the kind of middle to the east section of the property, where we believe the intrusive comes closer to surface. So 2022 will be a key year. Could in effect be 2 drills on the property. We have this much bigger drill being mobilized now, and then we have the diamond drill that we've used throughout this year that we don't expect to demob, or if we did, would only be off for a couple months quickly on site. So this is a summary of our market cap today, and it's still very much an exploration company. We've got several million into the project. We've been at it for a period of time. It's about $15 million market cap, 109 million common shares, warrants and options, about 20% insider ownership. So by comparison, and I throw this up, a lot of caveats to do with this, but it's the metal inventory range for IOCG type deposits ranges from 10 billion up to 30 billion, the big ones, very big ones. And 10 billion is at the smaller end. So 1% of metal inventory might be $100 million US valuation. And then they're big, valuable, high-grade deposits. So, you know, that obviously is not reflected in our share price today, and yet is our objective is to prove that this deposit type is on the San Javier claims. So this is our the natural gas wells that we have in Texas. Only the first 10 months of this year, we've got about 150,000 Canadian. I think when it comes in at the end of December, we're going to be 180, maybe closer to 200 because there's been a spike in gas prices. That covers our corporate. And we are actively seek opportunities to enhance cash flow for the company that allows us to protect ourselves from issuing shares unnecessarily. Really, at the end of the day, dilution is not a solution. It's you know, dilution is one way to detract from the value proposition for shareholders on a per share basis as we seek these very large material discoveries as part of the exploration game. So this is our team. So I've got a bit of experience, but in capital markets and mining deals for a number of years. But Tito Montano is a career geologist. Spent a lot of time in different jurisdictions, but most of his time in Sonora State, and was involved as a junior geologist, but in some of the cases, but it has been involved in various capacities in some of the key major mineral discoveries of Sonora State, including the Kidevac, northwest of where we are, La Choya deposit, also northwest, and Campo Morado, south, and all of which are fantastic mineral inventories, economic mineral deposits, currently mines. So, and fully convinced that we are on the cusp of another such undertaking here at San Javier. So this is us. This is our contact, and that's really the summary of the report. This is, again, looking north on the project. For the questions that you have about this presentation, we'd be very happy to answer them now. Please email questions to ksamnani@canucresources.ca. So thank you very much indeed for your time today, and I look forward to answering your questions now.
Let's see here. Now, what more do you need to prove that you have an IOCG deposit?
Well, okay, thanks. We need to hit it. You know, we've got all this evidence, we need to hit it. We think we're 50 to 100 meters from an intrusive in the hole that we're in now. We think there's definitely going to be places where it comes closer to surface. It could be below the silver in the north. I mean, it'll be big. It'll go for hundreds of meters in all directions, including down, if we're able to have this type of deposit. So we need to hit it with our drill. There's lots of smoke everywhere, and look, these veins are economic, so they can be mined as vein mines, but that's really not what we're trying to confirm. We're trying to confirm that all comes from a magmatic intrusive IOCG type deposit. So I think that answers that one.
Right. Our next one is asking, how do you expect this drilling rate to be improved?
Okay, so we're going to have, for starters, we're going to have two drills. The bigger drill, and I don't think we're going to demob the other one. I'm going to meet them on January 8th to discuss specifically that, but there's no reason to demob the smaller one. And they've trained their crews. Of those 102 days, I think it was 102, 105 days, about half of them, they were on day shift only. They've trained their crews. You know, we have a very, very good rate. There's no demob charges. You know, they've got crews trained for 2 shifts. They've, you know, all the things that like they didn't have enough NQ core. Now they've supplied themselves with tons of NQ core, so that issue isn't going to come back again. They've you know, put a bigger motor on that drill. There's many things that will make that drill work, the existing drill, and then we're going to have another much bigger drill for at least the continuation of the current hole. So that's how the drilling rate will improve. Phil.
Following that question, another drilling question. How long do you expect to use this larger drill, and how does that affect the price of each drill that you have to do? Okay, it's more expensive than the other, you know, than the smaller drill, but it's also it's very important information and confirmation that we're after. How long do I expect to use it? Look, our objective is to hit the intrusive. If we see copper in an intrusive matrix, we're going to carry on in there.
and look for, effectively what would ultimately possibly become a discovery hole with some significant distance. So we won't stop just because we're in it for 50 meters or 100 meters. We'll see how much we can get with that particular drill, which I think can go down over 2,000. So it'll be dependent on what we see there. And then again, where we evidence it, where we can find intrusive elsewhere on the property, we would carry on at depth, because the geology is likely sourced from depth. We're talking about a magmatic intrusive, and we're looking for something in the. If you do a Google on, the pit for Candelaria, it's a great big, and it's 2 kilometers, 1.5 kilometers deep. So we will carry on at depth. Does that answer that question, Phil?
I think it does. Following that question again, do you have any idea at which depth the intrusion could be, this intrusive could be?
We think we're within 50 to 100 meters, possibly, very possibly right now, of the intrusive. I think to the north, where the silver veins and the silvers manifest there's an anomaly there that's within only 100 meters of surface, a large magnetic anomaly. Now that could be magnetite carrying silver and have come off of the intrusive, or it could be a portion of the intrusive. Very possible that there's much less. The sedimentary package we're in here, the Barranca group. We also think to the east, it's probably much nearer to surface, because there's a lot of pits and with copper and gold mining history and stuff like that. So it's tough to say. We also think that the large copper gold zones epithermal probably comes to surface and will go down from surface, the copper gold zone, but and possibly then into the intrusive. And as you can see back in that diagram that we had, some of those breccia zones, they really go down all the way to the intrusive. So at what depth? I think it's dependent on where you are on the property. And our first objective is to hit it, because if we can confirm that we have it, then it's going to be very meaningful. That therefore, where does it look like? What is it? Where does it? What are the dimensions of it? And there'll be enough interest for sure, I expect, from that outcome to support further drilling. And so difficult to answer until we get into it more.
Okay, our next question, I think one of your shareholders has caught on that you guys are operating in a fairly robust district. What positive moves have your neighbors in the area made that could reflect well on what Canuc is doing?
Well, they're both drilling, well, that's a good question. I mean, it's an interesting question for me. One of the things was the last press release it was November 11th press release of Cisco starts talking about IOCG, the IOCG nature of this area, and that's the first time we've seen that. And I believe that's because of our work. So, is that encouraging? Sure. When a company like that starts saying, well, it's an IOCG area, and it's because I think possibly contributed to by the fact that we're making announcements about silver halides, pewtoronite, and the stuff that we're talking about. Maybe that's what's motivated partly that. And they're drilling. The fact that they're drilling, there's economic geology around here, no question, right in our borders, both to the south and to the east.
Great. Question coming in with regards to your gas wells in the U.S. How sensitive are you on the gas price?
Correlation, I guess, is how you answer sensitive. High, almost 100%. Fixed costs are what they are. All the drilling's been done. So if gas price doubles, our revenue basically doubles, and our fixed costs, which are marginal because there's pipelines directly on the properties, don't change. So very sensitive to gas price. If we believe that we're in a prolonged elevated gas price environment, again, then we could probably have 12 more wells. We got 8 producing wells. There are multiple other zones behind pipe, and there's very low decline rate. We've had no reason to stop producing from the zone we're in now in any of these wells, and we've been producing for 8+ years. So answer is very highly sensitive to gas price.
Well, thank you very much, Chris, for today. I think you've answered quite a few questions from our audience. With any other final words you would like to mention before we
I want to thank
this?
everybody. Thank you, Phil. I want to thank everybody that is a shareholder that supported the company. And you know, I want to express my gratitude for that. I want to express the sincerity with which we talk about our corporate statement, that we respect our environment, the community we're in. We're very respectful of the ejido of San Javier, and it's reciprocated. We have some great operating benefits, and our objective there is to find economic discovery that can benefit meaningfully that community. So everybody that's a shareholder that's invested in the company has supported that process, and I'm very grateful for that. And we're stewards of that capital. That's, I guess, what I'd want to say. And I think also, really, the important thing, I think that we're providing evidence that we have, we're still very much in the running for one of these deposit types, and it would have a very meaningful impact on our valuation, I believe, if we end up being successful with this, which is our objective. And I think we're getting closer. We had some delays this year. Thank you for being patient through that. It's not been fun, but we're working ahead in 2022, and lots of stuff on the horizon too. So that would be it, Phil. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Also, thank you again to all our participants for the day.
Okay, thank you very much, Phil. Thanks very much, everyone, for attending.